Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Shit Radio. I'm Brasky. That's Liarz. He's Wasted. And Wasted, you got a story for us that's kind of crazy about Eddie Van Halen and Fred Durst. What do you got?
Once Eddie Van Halen, he pulled a gun on Fred Durst. It was basically after Wes Borland, the guitarist of Limp Bizkit, left Limp Bizkit, and the band and the record company kind of organized Eddie Van Halen to jam with Limp Bizkit and Fred Durst. Durst joked at the time. He said it was so kind of funny because it was like the greatest guitar player ever plays with the worst band ever. And basically they did the jam, and Eddie Van Halen didn't think it was good. He said it was like a scholar amongst kindergartners. And then, after the jam, Eddie Van Halen contacted Durst next day to get his gear back. And after 24 hours, he heard nothing back. So Eddie got really mad and he bought this like assault vehicle from a military auction. So he drove over to Fred Durst's house in this sort of assault vehicle with a sort of assault rifle gun. And he basically jumped out of his car, wearing no shirt, samurai bun, and basically combat boots. And he went up to the door of Durst's house, and Durst opened the door, and Eddie put the gun to his head and said, "Where's my fucking shit, motherfucker?"
That's amazing.
So basically, Durst...
I mean, that's just...
Eddie Van Halen was known for doing weird shit. Like he was like, if you listen to what is it, Panama? Like he brought his Ferrari into it's either his Ferrari or Lamborghini at the time into the studio, and you can hear it, like he revved it, and it's part of the song, right? Getting a little bit hot tonight, and then you can hear it revving in the background. That's actually Eddie Van Halen bringing his vehicle into the studio so they could record it. So he's got a bit of a history of doing some oddball stuff, but it's absolutely amazing. What a story.
I can't believe this wasn't like reported on MTV News. Where was Kurt Loder back in the day? Like, why wasn't Matt Pinfield like, "Hey, listen, guys, breaking news, Eddie Van Halen pulls a gun on Fred Durst"? I mean, that's amazing. It's better than like, what was it? The old story, the Eminem rap song about arguing about Christina Aguilera, who she gave head to first, Carson Daly or Fred Durst. I mean, geez, Eminem only said that. I mean, Eddie Van Halen actually whipped out a gun at Fred Durst, which, I mean, boys, that is awesome. That is rock and roll in its truest sense. That sounds like something Ted Nugent would do. Not Eddie Van Halen. Like, I'm kind of surprised. Like, when I think of Eddie Van Halen, I kind of think about, like, that happy-go-lucky guy who's always smiling on the Jump video and being married to Valerie Bertinelli, and then him bitching about David Lee Roth and, them going, "Hey, let's fire Sammy Hagar and bring the guy in from Extreme to be the new singer, because that's going to be great." Because, Van Halen 3, it's going to be bigger than any Van Halen episode. And that episode album. But what I always think, that's what I think of Eddie Van Halen doing. I don't think of him running around with a gun and, like,
Well, in one of those Van Halen books, when Eddie Van Halen gave up drinking, he lived in one mansion, and then down the road there was somebody else he knew, like in a mansion. So he hid like loads of vodkas in the freezer of his friend's kitchen in fridge. So he was pretending to be sober, but whenever he needed a drink, he just went down the hill to his friend's mansion and went in the freezer and got a bottle of frozen vodka out, and then went back home claiming that he was sober. So that was another kind of wild story.
I don't think anyone can argue that Eddie Van Halen's a top 5 guitar player of all time. Eruption alone is just brilliance. I mean, the guy was amazing. As a guitar player, I can't think of anyone that I could argue is technically better than Eddie Van Halen. It's all just a matter of taste and opinion. But the fact that he kind of led this crazy life too, and the fact that he seemed like he was a good dad, like Wolfgang is out there performing all the time, and he really loved his dad. He performed with Van Halen. He seemed like he was a good father, and the fact that he pulled the gun on Fred Durst is just hilarious to me. It kind of makes you ask, like, Van Halen was never considered bad boys in the 80s. They were kind of, or the late 70s too. They were just kind of considered, safe rock, right? Like, no one ever went to Van Halen and went, "Oh, God, it's Van Halen." Oof.
I just thought like David Lee Roth was kind of a wild frontman backstage.
Well, you guys are older than me. You know, I'm a millennial. You guys are Gen Xers, so maybe I'm missing on that because my whole opinion of Van Halen was like it was a safe rock. It was always like, oh, you put on the rock station. Oh, look, Van Halen's on her. It's in movies. It was like in every '80s movie that was popular for like teenage angst. It was like, oh, let's put Van Halen in here. So
they were known for being rowdy and having a good time and the party life, right? They were very much rock stars.
They were on the Sunset Strip.
Yeah, but I wouldn't consider.
No, they were on the Sunset Strip. You know, they were hanging out with all these people. I think the music doesn't push the sort of hedonistic sort of lifestyle as much as some other bands, does it?
Well,
but some of the songs do. But
by the time I was old enough to really like listen to Van Halen, like David Lee Roth was gone. Sammy Hagar was the lead singer, and I just think that was like I just remember them from the Power Rangers movie. The ending of Power Rangers is higher, and then them doing the no, it's higher and higher, straight up will fly. What song is that, guys?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. Dreams. You got to Van Halen when it was Van Hagar, and it was definitely a lot safer with Sammy Hagar and more dad rock than it was with David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth was a wild frontman. Eddie Van Halen was a wild guitarist. They were about excess. Like David Lee Roth loved his to have a good time. Let's just put it that way. As did Eddie Van Halen. So
Liarz. Do you want to know how like safe era of that Van Halen was? When I was a kid, there was a show called Saved by the Bell that I used to watch on like Saturday mornings. Then when, you know, as I got a little bit older, not much older, they had Saved by the Bell, the college years. And like one of the guys who was on the show, it was like the college dorm, whatever you call it, college dorm moderator, whatever that is, looked exactly like the bassist from Van Halen. So I thought it was the bassist from Van Halen. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah, so that's what I assumed. Like, Van Halen, I never considered to be like, you know, how Ozzy was back in the 80s or Guns N' Roses or anything like Motley Crue. I kind of consider them safe. Like, I'm not trying to insult Van Halen. I think Van Halen's amazing, one of the greatest rock bands of all time. The David Lee Roth era of Van Halen's beautiful. So, Void Locos, if you're listening to me, brother, I am not trying to shit on Van Halen here. But I kind of consider them safe, kind of like Poison. And if that's insulting, I'm sorry. I could be very much wrong. Audience, let me know in the comment section how wrong I am that Van Halen clearly must have had a little more bite to them than I imagined. They weren't as safe as I imagined. But when I grew up, Van Halen was pretty safe. And the Gary Cherone era happened when I was a youngster in my teenage years, I think. Gary Cherone was what, 96, 97?
The exact date is March 17th, 1998.
Okay, so I was just barely a teenager then. So that's kind of how I knew Van Halen. Like, they were a laughingstock with Gary Cherone. They were super safe with Sammy Hagar. Like I said, the end of the Power Rangers movie, the Twister soundtrack. Like, really good rock band. Just, they were safe. So kind of hearing the Eddie Van Halen, that same guy is just going around, whipping a gun out on Fred Durst is insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, this part of the end is kind of sums it up. It says that Eddie Van Halen stood on the front lawn of a residential home in Beverly Hills in broad daylight, smoking a cigarette while holding a gun on Fred Durst as he went back and forth from the house to the assault vehicle, lugging amps and guitars.
Wait, so is there anything else you want to add to this?
No, it's just a wild story that I thought, we should talk about it.
Oh, definitely. Wasted, you find these wild stories, and Wasted and Liarz, if you guys want to start doing some rock updates, like if anything happens in news so we can keep our audience more informed, we're going to do that. Well, Liarz, why don't you take us out, brother?
Thanks for listening, everybody. Look for us on YouTube. That's the main channel. Hit like and subscribe and leave a comment. We love the comments. Look for us on Rumble as well. And if you're an audio person, look for us on Spotify, and from Spotify, wherever else you get your podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, Eddie Van Halen's a psycho.